Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name's Dr. P, and today we got our very first content update for version 10.0. We've got lots of very interesting and new topics to talk about as it relates to the storyline, of course, in today's video. But before we get started, make sure to drop a like on this thing if you like what you see, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel and becoming a part of the family today. Also, for those of you asking when my next stream is going to be, it's going to be tomorrow, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to check that stream out, you can do so by clicking my caffeine link in the description below. Really easy to follow me there and make sure you're fully kept up to date every time I go live. Today's most obvious and clear update is the addition of Tilted Town. Now, this was leaked a couple days ago. It's not like this is a complete surprise, but it is a new place, and as you can see, Tilted Towers, or as I should say, Neo Tilted, was downgraded into a super past version of itself. This even existed before Tilted Towers did. It must be from a long time ago, but it's called Tilted Town. And here's the catch. In Tilted Town, you can't break anything. You also can't build anything. So this place is going to play so much different than any other place in the game. Tilted Town will focus more on gunfights and genuine gun skill, which I'm a fan of. And it's only in this tiny part of the map, relatively speaking, so it's not like it's a bad update at all, and I think it just adds more variety to the style of play. I tried to play a couple matches today, and literally everyone was landing Tilted Town, so it's got that high action, it's got that high intense speed you like if you were a fan of the original Tilted Towers. In a couple days, when the popularity dies down just a little bit and less people land here, I think it will be truly a great spot. Alright, so the glaring question is, how did Tilted Town overtake Neo Tilted, and why did it happen? Well, I think it's no surprise, and it's pretty clear that the rift beacon that was inside of this area yesterday had to have been the cause of it. In case you didn't know, there was a rift beacon that spawned in Neo Tilted 2 days ago. Yesterday it started forming the crack in the sky. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then of course today it must have just somehow switched this place with some other place, and it seems that place was very, very far into the past. Of course, this isn't the first time we've seen this season, though. We saw it previously when Dusty Depot came back, we saw it previously when the factories came back, the meteor, all that sort of stuff, but those places weren't as far back as where we just got with Tilted Town. This looks like literally hundreds of years into the past, whereas with the Dusty Depot, we know it's well over a year old. Those timelines do not make sense at all, and they're not comparable in the slightest, so it makes me feel like now we're going to go back into the past even further than we originally thought with some of the POIs upcoming. I'm sure you've heard me say it a couple times, but Epic did confirm that the world of Fortnite is going to be changing over the course of this season, which I like. I like the idea of a constantly evolving map, and it looks like we got our very first edition today. It sure didn't take them long to live up to that promise. It took them less than a week. The season started on the first day of this month, and it's now August 6th, so if we say and round up just to say a week, that seems like a pretty reasonable time frame to get new map changes. Obviously, you will have to wait another week to find out, but it might be pretty likely that we're going to get new updated POIs brought back from completely random timelines of in the future or the past every week. Dr. P, what POIs are you talking about? Well, lucky for us, yesterday was a big day for leaking. I saw this courtesy of FNBR Leaks on Twitter, and essentially it's a list of upcoming POIs, and you may remember or recall a few. Let me know in the comments. Moisty Mire, Anarchy Acres, Risky Reels, Greasy Grove. There are also challenges in the files for Tomato Town and Flush Factory. A few of these aren't surprises. I'm not surprised about Moisty, Risky, or Flush because, of course, there are signs all across the map that made us believe that from the very first day of the season, as you'll recall. However, Anarchy Acres, Greasy Grove, and Tomato Town seem to be new appearances here, so there you go. Those are the places that are coming back later this season. But here's the thing, we don't know how they're gonna come back. Let me explain. As we already know, Dusty Depot and the factories came back. Those places came back exactly as they were. Well, Not 100%, but 99%. Neo-Tilted also regressed to a former version of itself, but it didn't go back to what we remembered. It went back to something even further in the past than what we ever saw. With that said, how can we be so sure that just because it says Anarchy Acres and Tomato Town and Risky Reels, that we're going to get those places back exactly as they were? Remember, time is flowing very strangely in the world right now. We're quote-unquote out of time, and something seems to be going on very strange. So who knows what's capable of happening? We could get all those places back exactly as they were. We could get them all back in the past. We could get future versions of them all. My guess? I think we're gonna end up getting an even blend. I think a couple of these places come back as they were. I think a couple will be in the future, and I also think a couple will be in the past. How far ahead or behind in the past or future, respectively though, we'll have to wait and see. Regardless of how it comes back, I'm so happy and just excited to see Greasy on its way back. Greasy was by far my favorite landing spot in the entire game. There was so much about it, you know, it wasn't necessarily a super high populated area, but there was still good loot and good action, plus it was right beside Tilted. So you could loot up, get a few kills, and then check it out. I don't know, that's just kind of what I think. Let me know in the comments what place you're most excited for to return. Now let's talk a little bit about that rift in the sky. As you can see, compared to yesterday, it has definitely gotten bigger. Remember how the rift went out? It began to shrink over time until it created Kevin and then disappeared. Now, my very first theory I had about this was it was going to expand and basically just go in reverse order from what the rift did. Instead of shrinking and disappearing, it would appear and then grow larger. Now, according to that theory, I thought about it for a little bit, but that would mean technically the second the rift formed, it would have needed to summon Kevin the Cube. So, by that logic, we're not exactly doing the same thing, but we're doing something similar, and that's been the case with basically everything that's been in Season X that's been old. Think about it. Dusty Depot? Yeah, it's similar to the old Dusty Depot, but the colors on the outside are changed and rearranged. We got an old Tilted, but we didn't get what we remembered. The meteor is back, but it hasn't hit, plus the visitor escaped before impact. So many things that are reoccurring, but not really reoccurring, if that makes sense. It's wild. Leading up to Season X, there were a lot of rumors that they were going to reset the storyline, go back to Season 3, and start over with new characters. While that was mostly wrong, it's not like we didn't get some Season 3 elements back on the very first day. In fact, we got at least 3, the Meteor, the Factories, and Dusty. I wonder if those theories could grow more and more true as time goes on. At the end of this season, Fortnite would have officially had a storyline for 7 seasons. That's seasons 4 through 10. I guess you could count 3 if you really wanted to, for the very last bit of it with the meteor in the sky. Plus, it would be the conclusion of the very first double-digit season. Fortnite made it 10 whole seasons, so it might be a great time, better than ever in fact, to go ahead and hit the reset button and start over with maybe a brand new map. Personally, I was kind of hoping for a new map for Season 10, and I still think that's gotta come at some point in the future. Let me know if you would be on board for a Season 11 new map. I was talking to you guys on my Discord server yesterday. By the way, if you're not in there, you should join, link in the description, it's a great time. And I was trying to figure out exactly where Season X fits in chronologically in the storyline spectrum. I thought, and I still think, we're somehow in the past, but not fully. Is it a continuation of the current storyline, or is it picking up where the first one left off? It's a valid question, and I saw this from Lost Soul. He says, when you go back in time, you don't go back in your timeline because you wouldn't exist or would be too young to have gone there. So instead, you are part of a new timeline that started by you going there, and it will not affect anything in your timeline. So if you were to return back to your home timeline, it wouldn't have changed by what you did in other timelines, since you going into the past is a part of your timeline. You caused it to exist, and it is a separate timeline from the one that is your home. It's just something to think about, but I do think it makes sense. I'm sure there are a lot of movies out there that explain this and try to depict what goes on. But in a nutshell, if you were to time travel back 10 years ago, how could you go to literally your timeline? You wouldn't be old enough to exist. By attempting to do that, you could potentially erase your own existence. So instead of going back to the exact thing that happened, you go back to a universe that was 99.9% the same with a few slight changes so that technically it's not the same set of events. Obviously, it's just a theory. Nobody really knows what happens when you time travel because it hasn't been invented yet. Maybe in a few years, I'm hoping, but not now. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time today. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Drop a like down below if you liked what you saw. And if you want to participate in my live stream, make sure to follow me in the caffeine.tv link below. In case you're wondering, my schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 3 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll catch you guys in my next upload, and until then, my friends, take it easy, stay cool, and peace out.